Yes.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Just want to make sure of that. So we're going to get through this. We're going to talk about green industry liens. We're going to talk about how we can get our money, which is always a important thing. And you always hate to have to do this, but there are times that we have to implement or file a lien on a property. And North Carolina has made it really, really easy for us. We're one of the very few states that has implemented what we call a lien agent. And my first experience was with the lien agent was when me and my wife purchased some property from my parents.
Now turn the volume up in you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you fine.
Okay, somebody was talking about turning up the volume. So hopefully you can hear me good. But the first experience I ever had to deal with this lien agent is when we purchased property and we pulled a building permit. And before we could purchase the building permit, we actually had to have a lien agent on the property. So that had to be submitted with our payment for the building permit. And basically it is a notification system. And it not only allows the owners who's on their property, but it is an easy way for the contractor or subcontractors to file that lien and get their money. Because a lot of the times, you know, you're a home builder or you're working for a home builder and you're down on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to, you know, a subcontractor. You know, we're considered, you know, probably tier 1 contractors based on being a landscape contractor, and we're working directly for the owner or directly for the builder. So there's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 subcontractors. And, you know, the tier 2, for example, could be the irrigation contractor that's been hired by the landscape contractor who's been hired by the general contractor. So there gets those tiers. Well, who might be a tier 3 subcontractor? Well, it could be the individual that was hired by the irrigation contractor to put in their backflow and the water meter for them. So then again, they've been hired by the irrigation contractor who's hired by the landscape contractor who's hired by the GC. So all of these tiers start happening. And it's hard for that guy that set the backflow. If the irrigation contractor goes broke and can't pay him, who does he even know who to file the lien on? But this lien agent makes it very, very easy. And thankfully, North Carolina is up to date on this and making it very simple. And so what is a North Carolina lien agent? It is basically a preliminary notice that is essential for securing your mechanic's liens right. So basically, what is it? It's nothing but an insurance company, guys, that is going to be the agent for it. Every state has their own set of laws dealing with when and where these notices must be sent, but North Carolina is only one of the states to have a unique lien notice recipient, the lien agent. And so what are objectives? What is a lien? Who is entitled to a mechanic's lien? What is a notice of contract? What is a notice of subcontract? And then filing a notice of claim of lien is what we are going to talk about. And so we'll also talk about filing the claim of lien, monetary awards, time in which to file a lien foreclosure petition, and then the sale of land to satisfy the lien. And yes, the judge can foreclose and force the owners or the builder to sell that property to pay these liens off. And so in North Carolina, a lien agent is a title insurance company or agency that must be notified prior to filing a mechanic's lien. General Statute 44A-11.1 requires a lien agent to be appointed by any owner on projects that are valued at $30,000 or more. Now, does that have to be, is that in relationship to our license law? No, but it's probably being kind of mimicked after the general contractor's law, because their license limitation starts at $30,000 too. You have to have a GC license for any construction work over $30,000. They are considering lowering it to 15,000 though, which I hope that our license law would, mimic that and kind of do the same. But anytime you open up a law like this to go before our state legislators, they can sneak in all this other stuff that we may or may not want. But anyway, it says here the owner on projects that are valued at 30,000 or more. So that is your homeowner, or that is that general contractor who, bought the lot and is building a spec house. Or it is the property management company or development company that's hiring their GC. They're going to have to file the lien and not the GC. And if you're unsure who the lien agent is on your project, you can either request this information from the owner or review the building permits. And a lot of the times you're going to be able to purchase this lien, and it doesn't cost much. I think I paid like $25 for our lien agent. And all we did was Google lien agents, North Carolina, and all these title insurance companies popped up, and you just kind of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick one that you like. My brother's a builder as well. And so he had just finished and sold a spec house. He had to have the lien agent. So he was good for me to call him and say, hey man, who'd you use? And, what does all this entail? So, I had a little bit of knowledge when it came to it. But anyway, $30,000 or more, homeowners got to, they're required to actually do that. And as a owner, just think about it. If you bought a house or, is going to do a swimming pool, or you're going to do your own outdoor kitchen or whatever on your personal property, and you're subbing out a lot of this work, well, what we're seeing now is subs of a sub of a sub. You want to know who is exactly on your project. But what's the bad thing about that? Because what are these subcontractors not doing? They're not notifying the lien agent that they're even showing up, even though it is required by law. Because a lot of these guys are still, handwriting invoices. They're still handwriting estimates. They're not computer savvy, or they don't want to get involved, with digital tracking systems like that. That's, to each their own. But a lot of these guys are not filing these liens or letting the lien agent know. So with contractors, subcontractors, and material suppliers coming and going on a project site, it's not uncommon for an owner to be unaware of all the entities contributing to a project. And by requiring that a preliminary notice be sent to a lien agent, this system ensures that owners are never surprised by a mechanic's lien. Because what's going to happen if that backflow guy doesn't get his check, he's going to file lien on that property. And let's say it's new construction, that the owner's having all this landscape work done and the pool and everything's on there. So there's that building permit. When they go to close on that house and have all this stuff, tied into a permanent mortgage, they don't want to get there and see that there is actually a lien on the property. And it's just one of those things. And a lot of good builders, a lot of good contractors, a lot of good landscape contractors, money gets tight here and there. We're not doing our books correctly, or we're behind on billing. And so we may not have had money to pay these guys, and you don't want that lien to sneak up on you, because it's very embarrassing if the reason there's a mechanic's lien on your customer's house is because you haven't paid one of your subcontractors. And so what do contractors need to know? GCs, subs, laborers, suppliers, and all other entities must send a notice to the lien agent within 15 days of first providing labor or materials. So you show up to work. We're like, well, man, who is this lien agent? How do we do this? And you're going to be able to tell if that's a $30,000 or more project. I mean, you can look and see. Well, open up the job site box. It's going to be there right beside the building permit. They will also, when we had ours, they printed this QR code that was like the size of an 8.5 11 sheet of paper that you could put there on the job box, and that these contractors could take a picture of it, and it took them right to the lien agent's website. And so they were like, okay, here's the lien agent. It makes your subs and the people working for you feel a whole lot more secure about doing the job because they know they're going to get paid. Even though this is just a notification system, when people have to have this, they know they're going to have to write the checks to the people doing the work. And so while sending the notice to lien agent in a timely manner is essential for preserving your lien rights, it's only one of several lien deadlines to be aware of. So you show up, I mean, you've got 2 weeks to let them know, hey, I've provided labor or materials to this job site. Now, we're at the very end of the construction cycle. You know, we're landscape contractors. We're the last ones in. You know, the same day that they're having us sow the yard and plant the 2 trees and 10 shrubs, you got the electrician hanging the lights. You got the plumbers making sure the fixture's working. They're trying to get the, just tidy up all this other little stuff. Now, we're there to get that certificate of occupancy, right? So they're like, come on in, get this stuff done. Let's go. Let's go. We got to get our CO. We're trying to close on the house. Well, what if the owner's already purchased the house? It's a little hard for us to get that money, right? It's already been sold. It's already been sold. The homeowner has moved in, because we have so many days to file lien notice, but we can't file a lien like immediately. There's that window of time that we can file a lien on the property. Well, we're filing the lien on the property, not the builder that hired us to do the work. So it kind of sucks for us because we are at the end of the construction cycle. And so who benefits? I think definitely the homeowners. I think definitely us being a subcontractor for these GCs, we can get our money. We can at least let it be known that we haven't been paid. But everyone stands to benefit from the requirement of the lien agent. As mentioned, they keep the owners in the loop on who's working on their projects. Subcontractors and material suppliers who are further down the construction totem pole now have a clear understanding of whom to send a preliminary notice to. However, real winners are insurance companies that, yes, they do profit from this system. But guess what? It doesn't cost that much money to get this lien agent. While contractors can benefit from the inclusion of a lien agent, it's not all for the best. While it can be extended, a notice to lien agent will expire after 5 years. But you know what? We shouldn't still be concerned with this project. We should have closed the books out long after 5 years. Furthermore, you may be required to cancel this notice upon receiving final payment. No biggie. All you do is let them know, hey, I'm no longer on the job. I've been paid. Done deal. As a contractor, you must remain aware of particulars like these to ensure that you always receive payment for your services. Now, how many of you are actively working for commercial builders?
Builders.
Huh? They can be good or bad, right? What is it, though, about the commercial builder? What do they do before we actually go to work for them? And we receive a request for qualifications long before we receive that qualification or, request for bids or request for proposals, RFPs. But they're going to qualify us. They're going to see that we have everything in place. Our landscape contractor license, which, lets them know, hey, we're bonded. And that means that we also have to have general liability and workers' comp because we won't get our bond if we don't have those two. And we won't be, we have to have a bond so we can even get our landscape contractor's license. So when they see that we're a licensed professional, as we are, they're like, hey, they are insured and bonded. That's an automatic given. And general contractors, with their licensing law, are required to hire licensed professionals when they 1099 a subcontractor. Now, granted, they can do the work themselves. Their license allows them to do anything. They can do irrigation. They can do the landscaping only on the properties that they are actually building. Only that they are building. They can't go out and say, hey, we'll do a landscape job for you, or we can't They can't go out and advertise doing irrigation systems. They're only allowed to do it on the properties that they are building for sale. And if they're going to hire it out, they've got to use a licensed contractor. Their law requires them to do it. Now, are they all doing that? No. But we're not policing that like we should, because we are the police when it comes to these license law violations. So what is the lien? Liens cloud the title to real property, but can be an effective method for securing payment for the labor or materials used in the improvement of real property. The lien stops the owner from selling the property with a clear title. So when they go to closing and they're getting ready to sell their house, or they're refinancing that construction loan into a permanent mortgage, the attorney is checking that day of closing, is there any outstanding liens on the property? He has to make sure there is clear title, because they're not going to do the mortgage. The mortgage company won't do it. So they can't sell that house, or they can't get that permanent loan if there is a lien on it. And who do you think's the first person to file lien on a new construction home? Think about it. When it comes to building a house and all the steps in it, who is probably the first contractor and the first material supplier to file liens? Your grading contractor. He's in there first and foremost. He's the first one in. He's cutting down the trees on the property. He's going to dig out the basement. He's going to excavate out for the crawl space. And then your concrete company, because the footers are going to be dug, and they're going to make sure they get their money. Always, first and foremost, concrete companies, you'll see them place a lien, because the house is still being built when it's time for them, when it's in that window for them to file the lien. They can't do it, 5 days afterwards. It's in their license. We'll see that here in a minute. And remember, the lien may be foreclosed in a lawsuit. And let's say, as a landscape contractor, they go ahead and close it. They go ahead and close and get that permanent mortgage. And we still haven't been paid by ABC Builders, who built a house for Mr. and Miss Smith. When our time comes up, I'm always going to call the builder and say, hey, look, I'm filing lien on this property. Do you sure you want this to happen? Because they're going to be mad at you. The homeowners are going to be mad at you. File the lien. The homeowner doesn't have to pay you. They will when they sell the house, but more than likely they're going to be chewing out their builder and saying, hey, why haven't you paid the landscape contractor? We've paid you all of our money. They're owed you that. Now, when it comes to commercial builders, what do you have to sign before you get paid? You submit your payment application. And all this is in the specifications before you even bid the job, which we're supposed to read. It's going to say, when needing money, you must file a payment application and get it notarized and give it to us by the 15th of this month to be paid by the 30th of the following month. They're stating to you their payment terms. They've just bought themselves 45 days. But along with the payment application, you must get a signed lien waiver notarized. So you're giving up your lien rights when working for these commercial builders. You can't file a lien. That lien waiver stating that you've already been paid. They're not going to pay you until that is submitted. And then the court can order the property to be sold and the proceeds used to pay the contractor, sub, labor, or material supplier. So who's entitled? Contracts with the owner. This is the general contractor who contracts with the owner, whether it is commercial or residential. There are a lot of developers that will bid out their jobs to larger GCs to build their shopping centers and to build their, medical facilities that they're doing. Then there's contracts with the GC. This is first tier subcontractors who contract with the general contractor. That is us as an irrigation or landscape contractor. And then contracts with first tier subcontractors, second tier contractors who contact with the first tier. Again, this would be an irrigation, because a lot of the times the builder, they're going to tell the landscape contractor, I want you to handle everything. I don't want to have to find an irrigation guy. You know, you're my landscaper. I want this package. You know, I want sod in the front. You know, we'll sow the yard in the back. We do want irrigation, and give me 2 street trees, depending on what the development says, and then do me some kind of, you know, nice little foundation planting. But I want you to make sure that irrigation gets done. So we would hire that irrigation contractor to come in and do that for us. We also have contracts with second tier subs. These are third tier contractors who contract with second tier. Again, the backflow guy working for the plumber who's working for you, that's working for the builder. And then remote contracts, even further down the totem pole. More remote than third tier contractors, but have lien rights against funds owed to the party with whom they contracted to perform the work. So a remote contract, you know, it could be the backflow guy, you know, not paying his tester. You know, he's got to get that backflow tested after he gets it set in there. You know, he's got a contract with a company to come around and test it. So it can get hairy. And so think about this. You've got a homeowner. They're not going to know who this person is. But when they file with the lien agent, that homeowner can log in and see online everybody that's been on their property. Because what if they get a lien on the house and they're like, I don't even know who this is? They can go right back to that lien agent and see, oh shoot, yes, they were working for the landscape contractor who did not pay. Notice of contract. Within 30 days of the building permit issuance, the general contractor can file a notice of contract with the office of the clerk of Superior Court. This notice must be posted on the property in a visible location adjacent to the posted building permit. So we have a contract. The GC, as a builder, we have a contract. We have to file a notice letting them know that we're building this project. We file it with the office of the clerk of Superior Court. Put it right beside the actual building permit. Laminate it, stick it in a job site box. Notice of subcontract. To preserve lien rights, the second and third tier contractor must serve upon the contractor who has filed a notice of contract with a completed and signed notice of subcontract form. Now, I know these subcontractors out there. I do. Now, a lot of them, I would say 75 to 80% of them don't even know that this is the law. They're not even going to care that it's the law. They're still going to work. And a subcontractor that knocks on your door every Friday needing partial payment drives me absolutely insane. That's why I will never, ever build a house ever again unless it is my personal house. I will never build one for sale or anything like that. Because every Friday, you know, they show up every Thursday afternoon about 3 o'clock and they do 2 or 3 hours worth of work, and they've got 3 weeks of work on the job. And they're like, hey man, I need half down. You know, we showed up. I need to get half. What are builders and homeowners working with when it comes to getting money to pay these subcontractors? If you've got a construction loan on building a house, whether you're the homeowner or whether you're the builder, you're paid upon completion of work. So when your framing contractor finishes framing the house, you're going to call the bank, and the bank's going to send an inspector out there and say, yep, framing done. We will pay up to the framing portion. And there's like 5 or 6 periodic inspections that the bank will do. Once you run out of those inspections and you're calling them back, hey, well, we got the carpet in, I need to get that money. You know, they'll charge you for that inspection. They're only going to give you so many. But these framing contractors, especially, You know, it takes them 2 weeks to frame a house. These guys are needing to get paid. Some of them need to get paid on a daily basis. Well, you're not going to get that construction draw for the framing until the framing is complete. So you've got to have a reserve. You got to have some up front to help get these guys through. But that's why I don't want to deal with it. Like making payroll. When the subcontractor works for you, they should be able to stand on their own 2 feet for a couple of weeks, but most of them can't. Prior to filing a lien, first tier, second tier, and third tier, and the remote contractors must file a notice of claim of lien. This notice must contain the address, name and address of the person claiming the lien upon funds. So basically your information, general description of the real property improved, 123 Main Street, Forsyth County, in subdivision Sunrise Hills, lot 42. You've just described it. They know exactly where it's at. The name and address of the person with whom the lien claimant contracted to improve real property. So if we're hired by the builder, we're stating ABC Builders, P.O. Box 123 Main Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Not hard to do. A little bit of paperwork, but red tape guarantees money. Always. You also got to have the name and address of each person against or through whom subrogation rights are claimed. General description of the contract and the person against whose interest the lien upon funds is claimed, and the amount of the lien upon funds claimed by the lien claimant under the contract. So we got to have contracts. We have a contract. This protects us. Now, I've never gotten a contract from a residential builder unless it's one of the tract home builders. They will do contracts, but working for these independent builders that are what I call clipboard builders, they don't even own a hammer or a shovel. They're riding around in a convertible in flip flops and show up to the job site. They're not the paperwork kind of guy either. They're hiring people left and right, but they're not getting contracts. Now us, what dollar amount is it required for us to have a signed contract if we are working for someone?
5,000.
5,000. So if we do work $5,000 or more as a licensed landscape contractor, we got to get a signed contract. And when you have that signed contract, you've got proof that the $5,000 or more is owed to you when you file a notice of claim of lien. Paperwork, track work. Like I said, I love red tape. It guarantees payment, and it keeps a lot of people out of the industry or out of that type of work because they don't want to do it. When filing a claim of lien must be filed within 120 days of the last date that labor or materials were furnished and contain the following information. So filed within 120 days of the last date. You got 3 months to do it. You got to have the name and address of the person claiming the claim of lien on real property, the name and address of the record owner of the property claimed to be subject to the claim of lien at the time the claim of lien on property is filed, description again of the property, name and address of the person with whom the claimant contracted for the furnishing of labor or materials, and then date upon which labor or materials were first furnished and first and last furnished upon by the claimant, and then general description of the labor performed or materials furnished and the amount claimed. Again, that information is going to be in your contract because we just don't do a signed estimate for $7,000. We got to list everything in our contract that we're doing for our customers. You've already got this information. And then signature of the lien claimant. Again, a lot of paperwork, but you're going to get your money if you do it and you do it the right way. And by filing a lien, you establish that you have completed the work in question and have not been paid. It's imperative that you can designate and explain the alterations you made to a structure in order to file a lien successfully. If you are thinking of filing a lien to acquire outstanding compensation from an owner, your role on the project must fit into one of the following descriptions. oops, you contracted directly with the owner or investor, you're a first tier subcontractor and the general contractor has not been fully compensated. Now think about that, because there are homeowners that get in hot water with the banks as well. And more divorces have probably happened when a couple decides to build a house. They're arguing over money. They're arguing over fixtures. They're arguing over the color of brick. And so if that happens, the GC's having trouble getting paid. So that's a reason the GC has not been fully paid. You're a first, second, or third tier subcontractor who can't be properly compensated based on what the owner or investor paid the GC. So the GC has requested payment from the owner or investor, and they only get a little bit. They're like, hey, we're having to wait. We don't have everything right now. And then the GC sitting there like, well, shoot, I owe this sub, and that sub. It can get crazy. You're a second or third tier subcontractor or supplier working through a subrogation of the general contractor's lien. Higher level subcontractors may have been paid, but the general contractor is still collecting or attempting to collect funds. It can get a little bit hairy out there, because as a landscape contractor, you're probably going to talk to the lady of the house. The builder's going to be like, yeah, find out what kind of plants she likes and do that. And then she's going to be like, yeah, we've paid him for landscaping. What if they've only given, a portion of it? What if they're paying out of pocket, or the bank hasn't come out and done the inspection? Now, a lot of builders are well off enough that they have the cash reserves to keep everybody paid. Those are the good ones to work for. And they do exist. They do. They have enough cash flow to keep everybody paid, and they know exactly what's owed to them. And they're keeping track of it. They got a whole office staff of people doing that. With North Carolina lien deadlines, in order to file a lien against an owner or an investor with an outstanding balance, you have to pay close attention to the various deadlines for filing a lien. In North Carolina, lien deadlines are generally uniform for general contractors, subcontractors, labor, suppliers, and others. General contractors issue of the preliminary notice to lien agent within 15 days from the first provision of labor and materials. The mechanic's lien must be served no longer than 120 days after the last provision. After that last provision of labor and materials, and enforced within 180 days of this date. So I'd say on 60 days, start thinking about it. 90 days, I would go ahead and probably do it. And the easiest thing to do to get that builder to pay is, hey, they don't answer your phone. You leave them voicemails or whatever. You either text them or leave a voicemail and say, hey, this is Eric with Elite Landscape. Hey, man, I know you owe me some money. Don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead and file a lien on the property. We're still within our lien rights, and we've notified the lien agent. They will call you back that day, because that is very embarrassing for that builder. Subcontractors, labor, suppliers, and others issue the preliminary notice to the lien agent within 15 days for the first provision of labor or materials. And the mechanic's lien must be served no longer than 120 days after the last provision of labor or materials, and enforced within 180 days of this date. You may also require a notice of subcontract. If the amount due to the contractor is not sufficient to pay all lienors, the owner will prorate the amount due to all of those claiming a lien. The amount due to the contractor. So how would we run into this situation? This is going to happen when we have a builder who is kind of gotten some money trouble, and they're just trying to generate cash flow. And so they're like, yeah, we'll do the landscape. We'll get this, we'll get that done for you. And Mr. and Miss Homeowner, it's going to be X amount of dollars. And then they tell you something, say, yeah, I need you to do this and do this. Well, they're already thinking they're probably going to try to get you, they're going to screw you over on paying you. But they're not billing the homeowners enough money for all the work that's being done. And so if everybody files a lien, then it's going to be prorated out based on percentages. If the amount due to the lower tier subcontractor is not sufficient, the party claiming the lien will prorate the amount due to all of those claiming a lien. Same thing. We filed our payment applications and we're due $15,000, for an irrigation, for a small irrigation system, a couple trees and some shrubs. What if the irrigation was $7,000 and we've only been paid like $8,000? We may have to prorate that sub until it's all given to us. But the bad thing about this is that irrigation contractor is going to be mad at us because we're the ones that hired them. So when we are being investigated or request for qualifications, these builders want to see who we are and understand that we're able to, build the project without going bankrupt. We need to investigate the builders ourselves. How can we do that? How can we know whether or not these guys are good at paying their bills? What? Somebody say something
about a business bureau.
Yeah, you could check with them. Yeah, 100%. Or you can also drive to the job sites and look and see who's on their job sites. We know in our area, certain other subcontractors, whether they're electrical, plumbing, or HVAC, or brick mason. Hey, man, ABC Builders called us wanting to do landscaping. What do y'all think about them? Man, dude, they owe us for 5 houses. We're still just working for them because we know if we quit, they're not going to pay. They promised us if we finish this one, we're going to get paid. That gets a little hairy, don't it? We went and looked at a bunch of burger joints that were getting built, and they called us because the landscaper bailed on them. And I should have known something then. It's like the landscapers bailed on them. Well, they probably hadn't been paid on the previous jobs. And so they planted half the shrubs. They didn't put out any mulch. The yard looked horrible, but they're like, hey, can you go and look at it? We're looking for good subs. And then we've got all of these under construction. So one Saturday, me and Dad just spent the entire day driving all over Western North Carolina, looking at these burger joints. We give them a price on fixing the one. They said, great. When can you do it? We'll get you in a couple weeks. And they were pretty cool to work for. We met the owners, and it was, luckily enough that the owners were the ones building all these burger joints. But I was putting this on my social media. A buddy of mine that's an electrician called me as soon as I put up these pictures. He's like, dude, stay away from these people. He said, I haven't been paid in 9 months on a job we did. He said, we did the rough end wiring. They got the thing dried in and construction stopped. So social media saved me that day. But drive around, look at who's working there, pick up the phone and say, hey, ABC Builders good to work for. People will tell you straight up. Yeah, they're good. They're good people. They're a little slow, but you are going to get your money. I can deal with that. But when people start saying, man, it's been 9 months, 10 months, something's going wrong there. You can borrow from Peter to pay Paul for 2 years. My accountant's always said that. He said, you can run on negative cash flow for 2 years, but at the end of it, he said, it comes to a screeching halt and you are out of business because there is no more money left. Time in which to file a lien foreclosure petition. A lawsuit to foreclose on the lien must be filed within 180 days after the lienor has provided materials or labor for the construction project. So what if it goes 181 days? You're not going to be able to do that. That's why you got to get that paperwork done, and you got to write all this stuff down and keep track of the calendar. Oops. Sale of the land to satisfy. Let's see. A judge can order the sale of the land to pay the lien or can remove the lien if it's not valid. They'll look at it and be like, Eric Jones landscaper filed a lien for 10,000. Heck, it was only 8,000. You know, what is this? This is false information. They'll shut it down. An owner can also bond around the lien, which is a very good thing for a homeowner to do. I haven't looked at the price of it, but I don't think it would be that expensive. But if you were to build a house, you would want to have a lien bond. So if there is a lien that's placed on your property, the bond will be enacted and will pay for it. And that bond company, guess who they're going to go after? They'll go after the people that had the money and did not pay that subcontractor or that materials supplier. Will this allow the sale of the land with clear title, but also makes the bond available to pay the lien holder and any of the lower tier contractors if the lawsuit is successful? So homeowners need to do that. Summary of the lien process. Notice of contract by the general contractor. It's got to happen. How many days before they got to do that?
120.
What is it? 30 days. Within 30 days of building permit issuance. Now, of course, yeah, if the owner has the lien agent, they've got to notify them within 15 days of doing any work. But if that builder is doing a job, whether it's a spec house or a custom home, they got to file with the Office of Superior Clerk a notice of contract. Because basically, the builder's got a contract with the bank if it is a spec house. Notice of subcontract by second and third tier contractors. Notice of claim of lien by first, second, and third. That needs to be done within 120 days. Claim of all lien within 120 days of last furnishing labor and materials, and then trial and sale of land or dismissal. So, some scary stuff out there that I hope none of us ever have to do, but it happens all the time. So, any questions, comments, or concerns?